Good morning, everybody. This is Amuse News. I'm your host, RJ. As you know, every episode we bring you a conversation with someone who is who's working in the food industry of some kind. We have some great guests coming up, and today is no different. Today, I'm going to be talking with Nicole Condon, and we're going to be talking about World Ocean Day, which is coming up, and we're gonna talk about the organization that she's with and a bunch of stuff. And actually, I'll just bring Nicole on now so we can get started. And without any further ado, hey, Nicole.
Hi.
Thanks for joining. Tell us a little bit, I guess, just tell us a little bit about you and the organization.
Sure. I'm Nicole Condon. I work for the Marine Stewardship Council. We're an international nonprofit who works with fisheries around the world on sustainable management for fisheries and bringing those sustainable options to consumers.
Awesome. And I got to go to a dinner about a month and a half ago in Philly, where we had I think 5-course meal of made up of sustainable seafood. It was really awesome. But that was the first I had heard of the organization. I know you all are doing a lot to try and get people to pay attention to sustainable seafood and to a lot of other things. And I guess we can just start by saying that this coming Saturday, June 8th, is World Ocean Day. And I guess tell us a little bit about what World Ocean Day is and why we should be paying attention to World Ocean Day.
Yeah, so the World Ocean Day was created by the UN back in, I think, 2008. So we're like 15 years in and celebrating this moment. And it's really just a day to raise awareness about how the sheer importance of the oceans in our everyday lives, whether it's mitigation for climate change or the very oxygen that we breathe, regulating our weather, and providing really healthy and tasty resource for us for food and livelihoods around the world. But I think for us at the Marine Stewardship Council, it's also a moment to celebrate all the great things that have been done over the last over 25 years that we've been working in this space, improving fisheries, making sure that we have really healthy fish stocks and really healthy environments around the world to keep fish around for future generations, to keep those livelihoods around for future generations.
And is your background in fisheries and in the ocean? Like, have you been working around the ocean for a long time?
I have been working in and around the ocean for my entire adult career. So I started in marine science. I was really, really intrigued and fascinated by the deep sea, and I wanted to learn more, and just slowly progressed more into the details of seafood. It's just been a passion of mine for as long as I can remember.
And tell us a little bit about like what the organization is doing this week and this month, I think, because all of June is kind of trying to draw attention to this topic. And what's the Marine Stewardship Council doing all month? And I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah, you can learn more. We can go to our website at msc.org or check us out on Instagram, MSC Bluefish. Doing a lot of really interesting, engaging things. Like we have a quiz going on right now about, what is sustainable fishing, some interesting facts, and you can win a really fun prize pack if you register. Really trying to drive home the really great stories behind the people and the fisheries around the world that are feeding our population some really, really tasty fish. And just really trying to talk about informed choices and making sure that you're looking for things like the MSC Blue label, where you can trust that the product that you're buying is what it says it is, first of all, and that it's coming from a better resource. It's really trying to make a positive impact.
That's cool. Thank you. And they're like, I guess from my perspective, there are so many ways people can take action to help protect oceans. There's conserving water and reducing pollutions. And you and my kids who are young talk about the plastics in the ocean. Like there's reducing waste, reducing pollution. There's so many different ways that we can, help protect oceans. But I guess I learned a lot reading about, sustainable fishing, not just about fish, but about oceans overall. I know this is probably a longer conversation, but for people who aren't super familiar, can you just give a sense for why sustainable fishing is important to the whole idea of, protecting the ocean?
Yeah, I mean, sustainable fishing, our whole tagline this year is sustainable fishing means more, right? So it's more diversity, biodiversity. It's more health, it's more jobs, it's more resources, it's more color on your plate. It's all it and in the ocean. There's so much more that can be done with sustainable fishing. And when we're talking about fishing, it's not just the cod that's on your plate, right? It's all the other species that interact with that cod. It's the environment that it's caught from. It's all the people that are a part of that fishery, and making sure that is all really managed in a proper way, that you're minimizing the impacts on other key species that are in the water and the environment that it comes from, and really trying to do the best that we can with the last true wild resource that we have. This is a shared resource that we have out in the ocean. It's a unique way of life, and it's one we want to preserve.
Cool, thank you. And so, what are some of the things that people can do? I mean, again, we have this on the website, which we'll link to, of course. But what are some things like when people ask you about your job and say, "Oh, well, what can I do?" What are like some of the top things we can do?
Yeah, I mean, for us, the top thing you can do is look for those credible third party labels, right? So it's looking for that little blue MSC label when you're shopping. And if you don't see it, ask your retailer, what are you doing for the sustainability of seafood, and engage in that conversation. It's things like diversify the seafood that you're trying. It is one of the healthiest and actually low carbon footprint sources of protein that you can get in the entire world. And I think in the US, we have the tendency, like our big three are always going to be like farm shrimp, farm salmon, and tuna. And then, it's other things like species of whitefish, like pollock and cod and haddock. But there's so much diversity, thousands and thousands of species around the world that you can be trying out as well, to not only reduce pressure on those most common fish that everybody's eating, but getting creative. I love that your first experience with us was trying different seafood in different kinds of ways, right? So
Yeah.
we want people to experiment and to find really great and affordable ways to introduce such great options to your family.
What can you give us, if this isn't too like broad of a question, can you give us a sense of like what's happening on the policy front, like in nationally or statewide? Like what are there strides being made to help protect oceans? Are you trying to protect against backsliding? Like how is the policy environment right now as it relates to this issue?
Yeah, I mean, in general, if we're talking about the US, we have some of the best managed fisheries in the entire world. The policy that we have behind our fisheries management is kind of used as a roadmap for many other countries in developing what they're doing. In terms of engagement, about 84% of the fisheries in the United States, in terms of fish landed by volume, are already MSC certified. So we've made great strides in the United States in terms of the sustainability of our fisheries. We have amazing partners on all coasts, actually, really, when we're talking about fisheries who have done complete 180. So, West Coast groundfish out on the West Coast of the United States, all along that coast, a lot of different species. For, a long time, they ended up being overfished. There was a lot of environmental impact, and they have done an amazing job over the last several decades, I think, really trying to build back up. And it's now this great MSC certified fishery. They've done the work. They have backed it all in science and research. They've coordinated with fisheries management like NOAA Fisheries, and have done a really great job, and have now a really thriving fishery. We have examples of that all over the country where people have put in the work. They're using scientific research and coordination with scientists and government, and all the fishers and people who are associated with the fishery coming together and really trying to make a difference, and keep these fisheries around for as long as we can.
What are the biggest dangers at this point on your mind
I
as we're
mean,
thinking about this?
the dangers in fishing are always going to be there, and it's kind of the same as they always have been. It's overfishing. When you are targeting a specific type of fish, there is always the risk that you take too much out of the water that it can't replenish itself. And right now, about a third of the seafood around the world or fish around the world is overfished. So it's a real problem that still exists and something that we are really focused on as an organization, trying to get those fisheries to really examine their practices and really drive for improvement in the future. Illegality is also a really big issue in terms of illegal fishing, whether it's illegal, unreported, or undocumented. Some fish are worth a lot of money, and it drives those illegal behaviors to try to make a profit. So really trying to shine a light on, do you know where your fish is coming from? Is the supply chain transparent enough for you to be able to know with certainty that your fish is coming from where you think it's coming from and was caught how you thought it was being caught? And I think, it can be really confusing to someone who's going to a retailer or, shopping online and trying to figure out, is this a good product for me to buy? And I think that's where programs like the Marine Stewardship Council are really important in shining a light on it can be traceable and, it can be done properly, and really trying to incentivize the businesses that you're engaging with, that, grocery store that you're going to on a weekly or monthly basis, to try to get them to come along with the journey as well and encourage them to make sure that they're addressing these really big issues that we have.
I feel like I titled this episode Celebrating World Ocean Day, and I feel like we have a lot of doom and gloom about the world in general, but are there celebrations this month and this week? And like, how do you look at that aspect of it? Because I'm sure that there are things to be celebrated and things to be looked at in a positive light, not just, here are all the problems we're trying to address, which are important, of course.
Yeah. I think it's might sound doom and gloom, but, we do this consumer survey every couple of years, and we just finished the last one. And it's showing clearly that, in the US, over 90% of seafood consumers are really concerned about the state of our ocean. And to me, that's actually something to celebrate because people are paying attention. Mm-hmm. This is something that hasn't always been top of mind. And it certainly hasn't been, top 3 environmental concern, but it is now. And I think that's a really good moment to start talking about, yes, some of the things that need to be improved, but all the hard work that's been gone, over the last few decades from, the fisheries and the partners in the supply chain and all this work that's been going on to make sure that we are reducing our impact and keeping these fisheries around. So we want to celebrate those fishermen out on the water who are doing the right thing. We want to celebrate those businesses in the supply chain who are really trying their hardest to make sure that they are only sourcing from the best, most sustainable sources, and encouraging those who need to improve to do so and giving them the space and the time to do that. I think there's so many good wins in terms of positive impacts on the water. At this point, almost 20% of the world's fisheries are engaged with the Marine Stewardship Council and our process. And that's a huge win. And there's so much more beyond us. We are only it's a horrible phrase, but one tool in the toolbox when it comes to improving fisheries around the world. There are so many organizations and so many companies who have come together to create things like fishery improvement projects that we don't really hear much about when we're in the grocery store. But there's so much positive work going on behind the scenes because we know that this is a resource that we want to keep around for our children and our children's children, right? So this is not something we want to go away. It's something we want to protect. And there are so many really great companies and organizations working so hard behind the scenes to make sure that that can of tuna still shows up in your retail aisles.
That's great. Thanks for explaining that to me. I learned a lot from the quiz I took on the website about the oceans. I didn't score as highly as I was hoping to, but I think it's interesting that you all are doing a lot to try and I think just try and get in front of people. And from like a communications perspective, it's a lot harder today than it probably was 10 years ago to get your message out and get in front of people. But I know that you have this interactive quiz. You're doing some of these like, smaller dinners and trying to educate people and engage people in all kinds of ways. And I guess I'm just curious, mostly from a communications perspective, again, like how you all are thinking about that and how that has come about, because it seems like a lot is happening aside from just press releases and social media and lobbying on the Hill and that sort of traditional stuff.
Yeah, it's so important to talk about who you are and what you do, right? And kind of cutting through the noise and getting those 5-second or less sound bites out on social media can always be a challenge. But I think for us, we're just trying to find creative ways to engage and educate. Because for us, it's just the first thing you can do is drive awareness, right? And try to explain what you're doing and why it's important before you can even think about things like asking someone to change their behavior and change to something different. So I think we're just in that kind of growth phase of, can we just bring you along on the journey and give you a little bit of education and talk about why this is important and have you be part of the initial conversation. So there's a lot that we're doing like you said, in terms of trying to engage in unique ways, like doing a quiz that kind of gets you up to speed on some of the biggest issues and some of the biggest successes that we've seen around the world. Getting those small events and intimate events together with influencers like yourself and leaders in media who can help share that story. Just trying to get a little bit of like simple but credible information out there. We don't want to dumb down the message because we know it's a really important message, and I think everybody can understand it. Oceans are important. Seafood is important. It's such a healthy and important source of protein for millions and millions of people around the world. And just trying to like get that first step, right? For us, it's just like, look for that label. That's just like one small step that you can take to really start making a difference.
And so people can check everything out that you're doing at msc.org. Is there anything else that you want to tell people to do while we're here?
I mean, I think one of the best things you can do for your health is try seafood. If you're not a seafood eater, just try it. And I think, one of the best things you can do for the health of the planet is eat seafood. It's a low carbon footprint, really healthy option when done sustainably and responsibly. So we want to make sure that you are choosing the more sustainable option. But it's one of those things, and I say this all the time because I am just like the stereotypical American. I'm very picky about what I eat. It's really hard for me to try new things. But I would just encourage everybody, just, if you haven't tried seafood, give it a try. If you don't like it, try a different kind. There's literally thousands of different species, hundreds of different taste profiles and textures out there. Just give it a try.
Nice. And do you have anything that you're particularly enjoying in terms of seafood recipes or dishes?
Oh, I'm hands down, my favorite is mussels. It's literally one of the easiest things that you can make, and you could put it in any sauce, any type of situation that you want. And it's always going to taste good.
All right. So everyone try seafood and check out mussels. Well, Nicole, I know you have a lot going on this week, and so appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk. And it's really interesting what you're doing, and I'll keep following it. And of course, we'll link to all this stuff and try to spread the word. So good luck, and thanks for taking the time.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
And everyone else, we will see you back here a little later this week with another episode. Thank you.